Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we are specifically going to talk about the bravery of three NATO leaders: the leader of the Czech Republic, the leader of Poland, and the leader of Slovenia. All right. So these leaders, it's absolutely, you're watching this 2022 war in Europe in real time. It's incredible. Like, this really is different. Like, a lot of people are like, Scott, this has happened before. That's the issue. We've never had a war where every single person had a phone in their pocket, right? Because it just changes the narrative, right? For one, yes, we had wars where we got pictures back. Those pictures were all coming from reporters. Crystal Ball, from the Breaking Point, she said, people don't trust the narrative from reporters anymore. They don't take anything a reporter has to say at face value. Not at all, right? Like, reporters are now in the reporters are now in the same bucket as politicians, right? If their mouth is moving or if there's content coming out, you're not guaranteed that not a single word of it is truth, right? Politicians have been there for years, right? Like, there's an old joke that says, how do you know a politician is lying? Their lips are moving, right? And, like, that's been around for decades, right? But I think we reached a point where people are like, yeah, I see your little report there. The coverage is nice, but I don't, no one expects that the things you're saying are actually true. Like, Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, the other day was like, let me give you the facts. I know those are inconvenient. Just flat out in public said to a U.S. reporter, I know you as a U.S. because you're a U.S. reporter to you, facts are inconvenient, right? Like, so one of the things is all the wars in the past were covered by reporters. So there's, words coming back and there's picture coming back. Nobody knows any of it's true, right? Like, and so that's one of the reasons why nobody responded to the covers before, right? Coverage coming out now is coming from the Ukrainian people. Like, people are just putting a camera outside their, suburban house window, and you're seeing a tank, you're seeing shelling. And here's the other thing, right? I think one of the reasons why we're believing, there's a whole bunch, everybody's like, oh, there's reasons why people pay attention to Ukraine and they didn't pay attention to these other wars, right? One of the ones is we trust the coverage. We trust the coverage because the coverage is coming nonstop, right? The other thing is, like, in these other wars, you'd see you'd see a couple pictures a day, see a few articles a day, right? All coming from reporters, all who had the ability to craft and edit what they were doing, right? The stuff is coming out so fast. The whole idea of, oh, that's faked, like, that's not real, right? You can't say that when there's 100 videos a day, right? Like, they literally don't have the time, the equipment, the money to change the reports because it's rolling off the same, Samsung Galaxy that you have in your pocket. It's just a Samsung Galaxy from across the world, right? Like, it's just, and so that's why we're trusting, and that's why people are responding to this, is they're saying, this isn't some reporter narrative. This is actual footage from real people just like me, right? So that's the reason people are responding to Ukraine differently than they responded to different wars, because different wars were brought to us by people that generally everyone accepts at this point as non-truth tellers. That's the easiest way I can say it, right? The reporter role is no longer respected in America or maybe anywhere in the world, right? It's just they have forfeited their validity. It's just the way it is. It's a sadness. I think it's very sad, but it's true, and that's one of the reasons why you're seeing what's happening with Ukraine. Now, you have these. This is incredible. So what's happening right now is three NATO leaders are taking a train to Kiev. Okay, this was reported on Breaking Points by Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty. I think that's his last name. Please correct me if that's wrong. And Crystal and Sagar, and they said these people are getting on trains and going into Kiev. Kiev is under constant shelling, right? So they said it, this is outrageously dangerous, right? Incredibly dangerous, right? What they're doing. And what you're seeing here, and I would add, incredibly brave, right? This is the height of bravery. And this, okay, so we live in a top zig world. Top zig, right? I'm trying to give you, quick ways to identify and communicate the world we live in. What is the top zig world? Thefts of Putin? Zelensky's important gifts. Okay, we live in the top zig world, right? So one of the things that Zelensky started it, he said, this is what a courageous leader looks like. Oh, and you guys in America pay particular attention, because I'm not sure the one you have right now shows any of these signs or abilities or willingness, right? And so he showed, like, when people are like, hey, we should get you to safety, he's like, I'm not going to safety, I'm staying with my people, right? And I'm willing to fight with them, right? Fight for them. I'm willing to put them first. I'm willing to say, our nation is worth fighting for, right? Like, and this, so Vladimir Putin, global villain. Volodymyr Zelensky, global hero. We are seeing this narrative unfolding, right? Villain versus hero. It's primal. It's straight back to our earliest stories. That's why, and that's another reason why people are moved by what's happening in Ukraine, is they can see it from sources they trust. That's the difference. We've never had a war before brought to us by Samsung, brought to us daily, moment by moment, by Samsung Galaxy's mobile camera. That's the difference, right? A lot of people are giving all kinds of reasons that it's different and why people are responding to this differently, which I reject. I think it is the power of the mobile camera. We've never seen a war brought to us by sources we actually trust. That's the difference, okay? So basically, this is really, really outlandish what's happening with these NATO leaders. And it's so brave, and this was absolutely the right move, right? Because even as they head toward Kiev, right, if even one of them gets a scratch on them, the whole Ukraine issue becomes 100% a NATO issue. And then President Biden is faced with a real, faced with a very immediate choice. I think this choice should have already been made, right? Like, I think we should be there 100%, right? Like, we should be, close the sky, get the real help that Zelensky needs, get it where it needs to be, right? But this will really push the question for Biden. I'm not saying he would go. I'm not sure there's any limit to his non-action, right? Like, you look at the coverage coming back and you're like, what more do you need? And the reality is there may be nothing that would make him move. I'm not positive he'd be willing to fight for our own nation at this point, right? I'm not saying he won't, but I'm not positive he will, right? So, it's tough. But the last thing I'll say about this is truly incredible. I've never seen anything like this, right? So these three NATO leaders riding a train to Kiev, a place that is under constant shelling, right? What this is a human shield inverted, right? You've seen, action movies where the villain grabs a person and puts themselves in front of them, and they're like, oh, I have a human shield. What are you going to do now, right? This is the exact opposite. Like, this is like people with incredibly valuable lives that if their lives are lost, will trigger action. They're saying, we're going to go put ourselves in this place of danger to stop this global villain, Vladimir Putin, and make him make real choices and say, hey, Vladimir, we know the Mariupol mother and her baby weren't important to you. What about a NATO leader? Are you willing to do that? We know you're willing to take the life of a Mariupol mother and her baby. We know that. Are you willing to take a NATO leader? Right? That's what they're saying. And God bless them. This is incredibly needed. That's my opinion. What's your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.